Hello, everyone. This is JD Calderon, and this is Indie Comics Explained. And today, I got another great guest for you. His name is Ryan Kroboth. Awesome artist, comic book creator, great guy. But before we start, just to let you know, please check out the links below. Hit like, hit subscribe. Let your cousins, let your family know that we're here bringing indie comic artists to you guys. And here we go. How you doing,
How's it
Ryan?
going?
It's going good, man.
Doing
How you
great,
been?
doing great. Thanks.
That's good.
Can't complain.
During these crazy
Staying
times.
busy,
Exactly.
right?
All right. So Ryan, don't mind me. I got a brother-in-law. His name is Brian. So Brian and Ryan, I'm gonna be like, you know. So Ryan, so tell us about yourself, man. Like, what got you into the indie game? What is it you're currently working on? What's Ryan all about? What are you doing these days?
All right. So first of all, I can't be mad that you call me Brian. My grandfather called me Brian for like the first 9 years of my life, so I totally got over that. Don't get offended at all anymore. Uh, but yeah, I'm Ryan Kroboth. I'm an artist. I'm a writer. I color. I have done lettering. I've done editing. But I'm primarily an artist and a colorist. I work on the book Sunmaker. It's a post-apocalyptic fantasy. The pitch is a man who has to. Oh my God! Now I'm blanking because I'm on the spot here. Uh,
It's okay, breathe.
it's about a man who has to decide if preserving his legacy is worth becoming a monster.
Mm.
So it's a lot of fun. So I guess I got into the comic scene. Like I wanted to. It sounds more like a comedy, right? I wanted to make a video game and a cartoon. So I was like, the best way to do that is to make a comic book.
Mm.
I was a really smart kid, obviously. So, I decided to start drawing characters. I didn't actually make a comic for a really long time. I spent probably like my whole high school just not paying attention in class, drawing characters, basically like the X-Men and the Ninja Turtles with different names. Non-derivative. Uh,
We've all done
and I got out of art for a really long time because it was kind of like seeing all the amazing artists. It actually like crushed my confidence, like in myself. So
it.
it made it really hard. Like I would go on DeviantArt. I know you said that you find like artists and stuff on DeviantArt, and like I would go on there and I'd be like, man, this guy's so good, and like I'm never going to be that good. And so I stopped drawing for a really long time. I ended up getting back into art because I did like a joke drawing, Super Mario, for somebody that I went to karate with because they didn't know what Thwomp was. So I was like, I'm going to show you what Thwomp is. And I drew Thwomp smashing Mario. It turned into this like whole little side project, but it ended up making me find digital webbing. So I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that.
Yep.
Yeah, AOL's Google search engines weren't that great back in the day. So when I would search up comic book forums, they didn't find anything awesome. But I stumbled onto digital webbing, and through digital webbing, I actually found Comics Tribe. So I'm pretty sure you're familiar with Comics Tribe. And I went on over to the Comics Tribe website, and I was like, this is what I've always been looking for. Like I didn't know what I needed to do to make comics. So I found Comics Tribe and I like read everything on the website. I really got into the Proving Grounds, which was the script critiques. I had a couple like books, like how-to books, and they had scripts in them. And I didn't really like reading scripts when I first found them because if you've never read a script, you don't know how to read a script. So I was like, these are awful. I hate scripts. But once I actually went through the website and I learned how to read them and stuff like that, I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. I understand what's going on. And Sunmaker, the comic that I'm currently illustrating, I actually found on the Proving Grounds by Liam Hayes. He ran it through like 2 or 3 times, and I was like, man, I love this story, and like I got totally into the dialogue, and I would run around my house chasing my cats, being like, oh, things return to the cold. And it was just a lot of fun. And eventually what I did is I followed Liam on Twitter for a little while, and one day I just sent him a message. I was like, hey, you know what, I really dig your writing, it's awesome, and I really like that Sunmaker script you got. And I was like, if you ever want some character concepts, I'm not really super experienced, but I'll totally draw you some character concepts for free. And he took me up on it. I drew some characters, and we went back and forth on it. And I thought that was going to be the end of it. And then next thing I know, he sends me the script. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't think anybody would actually like enjoy my art, and I learned a lot of about storytelling through working with Liam. So having a good writer does nothing but make you better as an artist, as you probably know.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Now, working now. Okay, so he hands you the script. Now, have you done any comic pages up to that point?
I had about 5. I like a little short story for a story that I'd been writing for, like, the epic story you think of when you're like 10 years old and you never really finish. So I had a couple pages from that. They're not the best, just a lot of fun. So it was a complete learning process. If you'd read through my digital deluxe back matter for the Sunmaker, it basically, it's like pages 1 through 5. I have one system. Pages 5 or through 10 is like a total other way of drawing the comic. And for your first comic, it's a total uphill battle. Like you are learning so much stuff. It's like the cliff is like a sheer straight up.
So you had that steep learning curve.
Oh yeah.
Now, how long did it take you to finish that first issue?
I say it was about maybe a year, like to between getting the script. I got it piecemeal. So like I would get 4 pages about, like, he would write 4 pages, send them to me, and then I would draw them up and then ink them, and like I'd have them completely done. And then he would send me the next batch of pages, which worked. We did that all the way through, halfway through issue 2 before he finished up the rest of the script. So, I mean, it's one way to work. It's definitely easier when you have the entirety of the issue, because you can look ahead and you can see, like, all right, I'm building up to this beat. This is where the big impact moment is, and then you can plan for that. When you're only getting it little bits by little bits, you're just kind of like, okay, I'm gonna do what I'm doing with this part of the story here.
Right. Now, all right, so obviously you're learning. What were the tools, or like the references that you were using to like learn your craft? Like, obviously you're learning, so you're sitting there going, damn, let me go pick up this John Byrne comic, or let me go pick up, like, what were the things that you were looking at that were inspiring you to push ahead in your craft?
I did a lot of Google image searching, and I would actually find poses that were pretty similar to what I was working on. I would do like a whole lot of, I'd sketch what I see on the screen, and then I feel like referencing is getting an image in your head, Googling it on the internet, finding nothing you wanted anyway, and then drawing it regardless without any reference. But like, you look at a couple different things and you kind of look at what the foundation is for it, and then you can use that to build off of. I found a really helpful blog. It was called the Temple of the Seven Golden Camels. It's by Mark Kennedy. He's a Disney animator. And I'm pretty much self-taught with my art. I buy a lot of books and stuff, and you never really get like the lessons you're looking for. It's always like the same information, just like written a different way. But his blog was really nice. Like it took different concepts, and I ended up finding a quote that I really liked there. It's art is taking simple concepts and applying them in increasingly complex ways. So basically, like any type of storytelling, like, when you're growing in your craft, you're taking something and like, trying to use different stuff and improve that way. So I was looking at a different couple things on that, like learning about like composition and different things like that. So I don't feel like I'm the best technical artist, but because I'm looking at more of like the foundation of the art, like I'm trying to build up a good composition, look at the eye flow of the page. Like eventually I learned that I wasn't doing my letterer any services. Yeah. So I know you're a letterer, so you probably feel the pain there when they don't leave you any space.
Yeah. That's funny. Just before this, that's what I was doing. I was lettering.
Yeah, man, more power to you. I took a lettering course from Comics Experience, and after I lettered my second issue of Sunmaker, and after doing that, I was like, what I've learned is I never want to letter.
It's a thing. Yeah.
That's one way of putting it.
It's a thing. I mean, as a writer, I actually appreciate it because it's another level of editing for me because I'm in there, I'm like, oh, yeah, that line does suck. And I just go in there and I fix it. And I just, but the only problem is it makes me an eternal tweaker. I'm constantly tweaking and messing with the stuff. I mean, are you similar with your work? Or you mean like, do you go back and like, oh yeah, let me just go fix that file a little bit?
So that's one of the things I feel like I got a hard lesson on. Like, if you try to fix this stuff, you'll never finish. You just keep going back and going back. So I try not to. I haven't really gone back and fixed much of the stuff I've done, so it's very rare anymore. I know my friend John Eddingfield, he went back when we basically started together around the same time, and he kept going back and redoing the beginning of his Ransomville comic, and then he'd come back and be like, hey, check out these couple pages, and he just did them like last month, and I'm like, you're never going to finish the book if you just keep going back and redoing the first couple pages all the time.
Yeah. What is it they say that art is never finished, it's abandoned?
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I mean, yeah, it's one of those things you just gotta let go. So like, okay,
I'm slow enough so as it is. I don't need any more help.
So let's get a little bit. So you said you're self-taught, right? Now, okay, so you stopped drawing for a while, you picked it up again, and then you obviously had this challenge presented to you. You took off with it. Now, what was, like, you went on digital webbing, so what was the further catalyst? You were saying to yourself, you know what? I really want to get into drawing comics. And like, what was the thing that got you into thinking that? Like, what books inspired that from you?
So remember earlier when I said this is going to sound like a comedy routine? So I brought it up. These are the ones that you're never going to probably see anybody else that shows you this again, right?
Multiverse?
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles source book. I saw that my mom used to work at a convenience store because I was back from the spinner rack era. So I used to go to work with my mom just so that way I could sit and read the comics that were there. Right. And I saw these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle source books. I was a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan as a kid. And I was like, man, I can make a comic book so that way I can make so many characters. I need a source book. So, and that was the thing that made me want to draw comics. And I actually read more of the how-to books. So like, how to draw comics the Marvel way, stuff like that. And I became fascinated by like how complex the actual like makeup of comics are. So I used to read a lot of the X-Men as a kid and stuff like that. As soon as my mom stopped working at that convenience store, I didn't really have a way to get comics. We didn't have a local comic shop that was anywhere nearby. So it was, I have a really long block of time where I didn't read any comics. Like, so right after Wolverine got his skeleton ripped out, I was there for that. And, and then there's this like block of time where I didn't get to read any comics. When I turned 16, I got my license. I went back down to the comic shop and I picked up stuff that I thought looked cool. So, when you're only looking at the visuals, the storytelling isn't always there. And it kind of left me a little disappointed. I'd come home. So like, they tell you come for the art, you stay for the story. And I didn't stay. So like, it was really upsetting. I was like, I don't know. So I actually started getting into Kickstarter, and that's really where like I found my groove. Like I would go to comic shows. There's a couple small comic shows close by, and like I loved picking up the indie books. Like I was all about the indie books. So I would read all that stuff, and when I found Kickstarter, and the first comic I backed was actually Epic from Tyler James. It was Yeah, I think it was right after his Oxymoron campaign. I wasn't there for that one. And I was like, all right, this Kickstarter thing's pretty cool, you know, and like, let's see who else is kickstarting some stuff. And, you know, now I probably say I get like 80% of my comics actually through indie creators through Kickstarter.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've backed I think a couple hundred, couple hundred campaigns. So you're probably somewhere in that same area, if not even further ahead.
I think the last I looked was like 315.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I mean, I'm still like, I still occasionally get some stuff from Marvel and DC. There's some I like to read the best stuff, so I keep my ear to the wall. You know what I mean? If it's good, it's good. I'm gonna read it. I love a great superhero comic.
Yeah.
You know, it's a huge guilty pleasure. So it's like, this is get me a good Wolverine or a good X-Men story or good Thor, especially Thor. Give me a good Thor story and I'll definitely, sit down and, buy the omnibus, So give me that 1,000-page thing, and I'll sit down.
Yeah,
and
like I'll pick up stuff like when I hear enough about it, I end up going back. I found a lot of really cool stuff from like Image, like Invincible and Chew and oh man, I love Skull Kickers. Have you read Skull Kickers?
I haven't read Skull Kickers. I read the other two, but I haven't read that one though.
Oh man, Skull Kickers is great. It's one of Jim Zub's books. I think it was before he really started working with Marvel and stuff. Oh man, Edwin Huang or something like that. He's the artist on it, and oh man, I love his art. The story's so fun. Like, I think you should check it out. You'd probably dig it.
He did another one that I really enjoyed. It was based in Japan, I think.
Yeah, Wayward.
Yeah, I have the two big ones. Like compiled everything.
Yeah, that book is pretty rad. I have that's one of the books on my pull list. I pretty much pick up everything from Jim Zub now. Even though I'm primarily an artist, I usually end up picking books based on the writer. Like I like the storytelling based on that rather than cool art. Most of the people end up working with good artists anyway. It's double win, but like, I like a good story.
Well, yeah, it helps. It helps. Like, I mean, you said you see some of the other interviews. I'm sure you heard me say this before. It's like, Sturgeon's Law. I'm a huge fan, and it's 95% of everything is crap. And, but us as creators, we have to do our best to get into that 5%. That's our job. We have to try to get into that, claw our way into getting into that 5%. I do feel that it's a little different. I do feel like, I like to look at it in stratus. So that 5% of the A plus guys, right? But you do have, I think there's there's a 20% field in it that's B plus, and that's just stuff that's just flat out fun. Just fun, good books, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's where sometimes Sturgeon, I have a little bit of problem with Sturgeon's looks. It's like, there is a little bit of space there,
This sounds like a perfect opportunity to make up a law and you name it.
No.
The JD Law.
The JD Law, right? Yeah. No, that's the last thing I want. It's like, yeah, that son of a bitch, he says I suck.
He made 20 million podcast episodes on YouTube, and this is all he gets remembered for is JD's Law.
Exactly, JD's Law. You might be B plus. Good luck to you, buddy. You're in the C crowd. Get out of here. All right, so you say you color, you letter. I mean, you freelancing full time? Is this what you're doing professionally?
So I work a regular day job. I got a pretty cool gig where like my hours are 12-hour days. So they end up being about 13 and then, plus travel. So on the work days, I don't really get to do much of anything. Right. But I work 2 days on, 2 days off, and then every other weekend. So if I look at it in a 2-week block, I have 5 days during the week that I have full-time dedicated to work on my stuff. And then 2 days on the weekend. I try not to do anything on the weekend. I like to spend the time with my wife, and do whatever. If deadline's coming up and it's crunch time, then I'm like, all right, I got to knuckle down. I got to finish up these colors. This is going to print in a week or whatever. Right. And but it works out pretty well. I don't know if you keep like a planner. How do you work?
My thing has always just been consistency.
Mm-hmm.
I just make sure every day I put in 2 hours.
That works.
So it just doesn't matter. Like sometimes I'll letter for 2 hours. I typically write every day for an hour, but I try to dedicate at least an hour and a half to 2 hours to other things, whether it be lettering, editing, manipulating files, anything.
You're just thinking of all the things you got to get done right now, aren't you?
Yeah, it's just like, oh, man, yeah.
Yeah, I totally get it. And the writing all my stuff down in a planner was a pretty much a game changer for me because, sometimes you end up picking the wrong things to do. Like,
Right.
I need to send this email or whatever it is. And you're doing something, but you're not doing the most productive thing. So that was what was really helpful for me. And it was also like pretty inspiring to like see like, all right, I know I need to get this done. I only have so much time and I want to be able to write down that I finished something today. So,
Right.
that continually pushes me forward.
Oh no, that's excellent. I mean, like I said, for me, it wouldn't work. I'd write in it for 3 days, and then after that, I'd be like, yeah, whatever. I got stuff to do. I can't write this book.
I did that, I think 3 times. I buy a planner every year, and I tried to write on a calendar and all kinds of stuff. And then I made it less about like looking at what I need to get done. I wrote down all the things I'm working on. Like I have a list of all the things that I have upcoming deadlines for. I write down when they're due, and then I just write down what I finished the day. And it doesn't make it quite as overbearing, so that way, like, it's actually, it motivates me. So that way I continually am trying to like, all right, I want to get something done. I got this coming up, Everybody works different, and as soon as you find your groove, man, you got to get into it and do what it does for you, man.
Yeah, like I said, for me, it's just work. I get up. I was like, whether I'm going to, because I have a day job too, so I go there, and no matter what, whether my day off, day on, weekend, it doesn't matter. I'm doing something based on the comic at some point. I'll hang out with my wife on the weekends, 8-9 hours, but I'll come home and say, all right, well, I got to do 3 or 4 hours of this.
Yeah. And she's doing it with you, so she understands.
Oh yeah. She's home all day doing it, so she's working as a freelance artist. So she's a smart one in the relationship.
Tell her I totally dug her sketchbook, by the way. That thing was awesome.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'll let her know. Because yeah, I mean, So how does your wife? How does she feel about you? Putting in so much effort and energy into the work.
Well, she's actually the one that really pushed me because I used to talk about making comics for a really long time, and I'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna make a comic. I'm gonna make a comic." And she's like, "Oh my God, when are you just gonna make a comic?" It's like, you're right. She does graphic design and stuff too, so she understands. Like, I get a lot of good feedback and stuff from her. I've also learned that I'm super grateful to be doing comics where people are excited to be collaborating with each other. And like in graphic design, it's just like somebody's like, I want you to make my idea exactly like I want it, and you get no input. And then you're like, that's not going to work if you do that. And then, no. I want big red letters and stuff like that. Oh man, I would go crazy. I'm super happy doing comics. Like people are doing awesome stuff, and like, you see it and it's just inspiring, and that's what's fun. So like, as long as I'm not like I said, I try to keep the weekends to do stuff with her and that. So as long as I'm not just like ignoring or, we go out, we still do stuff. Well, not right now.
And nobody's doing stuff outside.
I know, it's horrible. Yeah, but she'll come to the comic shows and stuff with me, and she'll sit there, or if they're local, I'll go by myself, and she'll drop by for lunch and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. Like she doesn't mind it at all.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's always good to have that that type of support because I mean,
absolutely.
I've met guys where like their wives were just beating them up over, and they have to drop out. Maybe they get divorced, and then they come back in. It's like, okay.
Yeah, that's no way to live life, man. You don't want to be that unhappy.
Yeah, you got to try to find that person that aligns with you. Now, I saw something of yours, Bright Ideas, Dark Minds, The Art of Ryan Kroboth. Talk to me about that. Well, how did that come about?
So I love art books.
Mm-hmm.
I have so many piles of art books. I call them piles because I ran out of bookshelf space now, and now I'm
Mm-hmm.
just starting to find empty spots on my floor.
Right.
And I really wanted to make one of my own. Like, I said, I hadn't been in art for a really long time. I never thought that was something I would actually get to the point of being able to do. I did a bunch of pinups for some of the creators that I met through like comics launch and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I had a lot of fun with it. So it was about 3 years worth of work that I put
Wow.
into that art book.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had maybe about 20 to 30 different drawings, pinups, covers. I sliced up some anthology pieces in there that I've done from 3 different anthologies that I did in the last year and a half. Uh, some stuff from the Sunmaker comic, that like promotional stuff like Kickstarter and different sketches. To me, I really like looking at the
Mm-hmm.
growth of a creator across their career. Like if you've ever seen an art book where, they show you Scott Campbell from when he was like a
Right.
kid and then all the way up until like the end of his career, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're looking through this stuff, and they're amazing as like a 16-year-old kid, and like I'm like, man, I'm not even that good now. And then you get to see like, what kind of stuff were they experimenting with, what did they change, and what were they trying to push themselves, and that stuff, it really interests me. And that's kind of the direction I wanted to take with my art book. Like I looked at my process sketches, the pencils compared to the final art, because a lot of times you only see like the finished product. Like, somebody throws it out there and like, hey, isn't this amazing? And
Mm-hmm.
I'm a process junkie, so I love seeing like all the stuff that goes into it, like, the little sketches, and what were the things that didn't work, and stuff like that. So that was something I was like really excited about putting out there. Like I said, I really love working with like the indie creators. So it's like almost all indie comic stuff there. I don't think there's a little bit of my Mario artwork in there, but that's
Mm-hmm.
the only thing close enough to fan art. So that's really cool. And I'm kind of hoping that like, maybe somebody will flip through, see something from like, I don't know, House of Fear, or the Free to Drawn that you have on the cover here, and be like, hey, I
Mm-hmm.
want to know a little bit more about that. And, send some love to some of my fellow creators. Maybe somebody else will find something else that they're going to enjoy reading through finding something in my art book, which would be awesome.
Oh yeah. Now, talk to me about some of the other projects you involved, because I saw the Sunmaker,
Mm-hmm.
but what is, like, you've obviously done a large body of work. So I mean, talk to me about some of those, especially actually, let's break it down. Let's talk about the anthologies. Now,
Mm-hmm.
how many anthologies have you been in, and what drives you to go into them? Like, what's the driving force behind that?
So I've done 3 anthologies right now.
Mm-hmm.
The first one was the Edgar Allan Poe Chronicles. I did that story with Will Allred.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I did Cthulhu is Hard to Spell. That was one of Russell Nolte's books. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing. It's this beautiful hardcover.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last one I did was the Modern Heroes. So that one's like a old mythology with a modern twist. And I think it's really cool because they're shorter stories. A lot of people ask me like, hey, are you available to work on this or that? And I've learned the hard way that like you have to finish one thing before you start taking on other things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really nice because, I'd love to work with everybody, all the
Right.
people, like, because collaborating is so much fun. And boiling it down to like a 6-page story is something that's manageable. You can take like, if it takes 2 months to go from thumbnails to final inks or colors, that's not too bad. Like, I don't mind breaking it up and working on that. And what's really neat about doing anthologies is, I get challenged in different ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sunmaker is one type of story. The story I did with Will Allred is totally different kind of story. It's more of like a thematic timepiece, like, set in like the 1800s, and it's different. So like, I get to look up different um, architecture and stuff like that, and it's I don't know, it's I like the variety, because if I only drew the stuff that I wanted to draw,
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't. I don't. You don't tend to push yourself as much, right?
Right.
Now,
You're not challenged.
Right. So when you're writing stuff for your artist, I'm sure you're like, all right, I know what they draw well,
Hmm.
and I know I can push them with something because I've got some scripts from writers, and I can tell, like, hey, like I get something from Clay Adams, like for the Frida story I did,
Right.
and I could tell, like, he knows me as an artist, as
Mm.
stuff that I've been working on, and I can tell, like, all right, I know this is written to give me a little, like, push, like, let's see what you can do now, like, take you out of your comfort zone and, like, challenge you a little bit,
Mm.
and that's a lot of fun because that's the best way to grow.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm pretty sure my artist Jade, she would tell you that I have definitely challenged her during our time together on the
and
Oswald
and
Chronicles.
and made her better for it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she wants to stab me, but that's the good thing about working with someone in another country. Is they're over here and I'm over here. Like,
It's
you
gonna
know,
take a little while.
exactly. As you start running at any time, I'll see you in 4 months. you know, but yeah, yeah, some of the things I've asked her to do. But so, working with the different writers, I mean, what are the different types of scripts you've been receiving? Are you getting like Marvel style, where they're just giving you a like just a synopsis, and then you're rolling from there, and they're adding in the dialogue later? They're giving you full scripts, and also like
I,
which one do you prefer?
I always ask, usually most of them ask what I like, and I
Mm-hmm.
tell them I like full script. So
Okay.
I like looking at the whole story, and then I see it more like editing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're going in and seeing how you can improve it, not like, so once they lay the groundwork, I'd rather go in and be like, all right, I like this and this, and then, like I was talking about earlier, was like, what points of the story have the most impact, so
Mm-hmm.
I can plan the story around what I feel is that, and so I can focus more on the storytelling, and then I don't have to worry so much about telling the story, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
you as the writer are doing
Mm-hmm.
the heavy lifting, and I like that. So then that way I can go in and, I feel it's more of like a team, like,
Right.
we're doing it all together.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's cool. So now, like, all right, so we talked a little bit about the anthologies. So tell me about some of the other books that you worked on. Like, what is it you're doing? You're doing, because I know you're doing coloring, you're doing lettering, you're writing, editing. You know, you're doing all this stuff. So I mean, what are some of the other things in other places you've done?
Well, I've done a lot of coloring for Clay Adams with his Fried
Mm-hmm.
Comics brand. I do I color the Frida backup stories. So
Okay.
every time they run one of their Kickstarters, they put like a little 2 to 8 page story in the back of the book, and somehow I suckered him into letting me color the stories. I was like, I'll color them all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm doing a lot of that. I've done. I'm working on a story from Albert Lim. He's doing like a Dracula story. He did that for his comics experience course. So I'm like coloring that right now.
Mm-hmm.
And most of my work has been on the anthologies. I've done some other coloring that isn't announced yet, so I don't know if I can like really say anything about it. But
Right.
that one was really fun because I actually got to ink and color over a Marvel artist.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was super exciting. Also very nerve wracking. Uh,
Did you ink over originals or did you get blue lines?
he sent the, like, they scanned the pencils, so
Right.
they
Right. So
were they were basically just scanned scribbles.
right.
He did the first page, and then I did the other four. I think
Okay.
it was 5 pages total. And it was a lot of fun. Like the first couple pages, like I literally just laid down his work and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't draw on it. I just straight went from his line work to inks.
Mm-hmm.
And I was only able to do that for 2 pages because some of them had horses. And I was like, yeah, I'm drawing these ones.
Uh, so you're a big horse fan.
That was the first time I ever drew a horse. So,
Oh, okay. Right.
like
Gotcha.
I said, if I only drew what I wanted, I would never challenge myself. So it's
Right.
kind of cool, like, seeing
Okay.
what other people are putting down and pushing me out of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. No, that's cool. That's cool. Now, um, you know, being part of the indie life, we know how hard it is. You know, it's not easy getting attention. It's not easy getting noticed. It's not easy getting, work. you know, now, doing the type of work you do, are you like, how do I phrase this delicately? Like, without giving any number, I mean, are you charging for your work?
Um, it depends. Like a lot of stuff I kind of do. Like I see somebody's running a Kickstarter, and
Mm,
I'll do like I'm doing it mostly because like I'm promoting them.
right.
I've noticed that if I draw something, I get a lot more eyeballs, comments, people like going and checking out the other stuff if I'm also contributing some artwork to it, which is kind
Mm,
of cool, and I have a lot of fun. I don't always have the time for that. I've had people come to me for pinups, and a lot of times like because it's not cheap
right.
working with
Yes.
with artists.
Yeah.
So I'll do trades and stuff like that. Like, hey, I'll do a pinup for you if you do one for my book. Then
Mm,
I don't mind not getting paid if I'm, not having pay out like, $300 or whatever it costs to
mm.
get a pinup, and I get something awesome in return. For the most part, it all really depends.
On the
I
situation.
charge for the covers on the Kickstarter
Right.
and stuff like that. It all depends.
No, no, I get you. I mean, I know it's weird. I mean, it's just one of those things because I've worked with professionals, and obviously I pay all my artists, and I'm just like, it's like because I know how indie guys are, or they can be. Some are very generous, you know, because I mean, because I'm like curious as to like with the anthologies, are you just getting books? Or are you getting a percentage of the Kickstarter? Or like, it's that sort of thing. Because it's just like, I've always found it fascinating the way these things come about. And
Hmm.
because I've never been in one, and I'm like, I don't really look in it because I'm so busy with my own stuff.
I
like,
think
I'm
you should
like,
totally do one, man.
I don't know, maybe. See, the problem is that I would want to pay everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was like, okay, so well, I even if I set a baseline for each page, and I said, all right, well, I can pay this, but it's still 120 pages, and I'm like, I'm gonna maybe need, X amount of scratch, whether it be like $5,000-10,000 in the bank just
Hmm.
to get that done. So because I've gotten to the point where it's funny when I first started, um, forever ago, me and my guys and my wife, we were all partners. So whatever properties we did, we were 50-50 partners on. And I have, um, even though many of them have stepped away and are doing other things in life, if I were to bring them back, like I just recently had an idea to do one project, and I called back my old friend and I was like, "Yo, Matt, if I do this, do you mind if I do it? Because you're half owner." And he was like, "Yeah, go do whatever you want to do."
I want to
So,
see it, man.
well, no, that project has been put on the back burner, but eventually I'm going to get to it. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like because but that's the thing. But once I stopped working with them, I'm like, okay, now I got to start hiring people. So it's just like, okay, so now I've gotten into the routine of paying, which it's weird because I don't know if have you ever gone through a spat where you work, right? You're at your job, your day job, right? And you work so much and you bank so much money, you're like, I want to buy something, right? So you go
I
to
feel like that's
Amazon.
every paycheck.
Oh, okay, yeah. you know, but no, but I mean, I'll go out and like I'll buy artwork. I'll
Hmm.
be like, okay, let me, just spread out money. So yes, I don't know, something weird like that.
No,
So,
I do that too. I get commissions and stuff like that. It's awesome. I collect
uh,
Super Mario artwork, so when I get commissions, that's what I get.
oh, okay, well, all right, there you go. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess it's a little different for everybody, but um, so and you said, all right. So you said you also do editing and writing. So I mean, what type of writing? Like, what have you written
Um,
that's maybe has come out or it's gonna come out?
so most of my writing has been for my comic that I was talking about earlier, the one that I said I started when I was like 10 years old. I've rewritten it several times, and I've
Mm,
actually worked with a couple different editors. Writing is really hard. It's easier for me as an artist to fake stuff. Like if you're an artist, you can't draw a hand, like you can kind of fake it,
Right.
but if you don't have the writing chops, you can't fake that. Like, it's pretty obvious. When you first start writing, I feel like you do a lot of the exposition. You're like, all right, I got to make sure they understand, this is the bad guy, whatever. And so I've done a lot of script writing for that series. It's called Forsaken Realm. And I feel like I've probably written like 600 pages of script for the same 3-issue story. Yeah. And because I'd write it out and I'd get edits back and then rewrite it. And I'm still trying to get it like good for the editor, and it is rough. So it's like, I kind of feel like right now I want to focus on the art side of stuff. But what's really exciting is for Sunmaker, I'm already planning ahead for when issue 3 is finished, and then we're going to collect it. I've been reaching out to a couple of my writer and artist friends, and I actually wrote a 6-page story for Sunmaker. And I asked John, I was like, John, I want you to draw a story for me. And it was a lot of fun. Like, so the first time you actually get to see somebody drawing your words that you've written down is like super cool. Like when it's blowing up your inbox, you're like, oh man, yes. That feeling.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. I mean, all right. So you're saying you've written 600 pages to this 3-issue thing, right? So what is it you find that's like your big, like, what is it that's holding you up? Is it, like you said, you did a lot of exposition? So is it characterization, or is it plotting, or is it you just stuck over a hump over, like, I don't know, 2 characters kissing? I don't know. Like, what is this holding you up?
I get told it's too manga-esque, which I think means it's too explainy. I don't even know, man. That's like, people just said it's too much like manga. And I'm not exactly sure what that means. That's not really like a critique. That's kind of more like a personal preference, I suppose. I don't know.
Right.
I feel like I get hung up on dialogue, and I also structure is a little weird, because finding out where you want to start your story is like the hardest part, and you could keep changing that, and I found that the more you write and you get somebody to read it, when you're lucky enough, and then they come back and you listen to the questions they have, and the stuff that they're like, I didn't really these names are too complicated, I had difficulty reading it. All right, well that's good feedback. If you're looking at this and you're just like annoyed that you don't like the name, that means it's not good. And so that's another reason why it's really hard to find people to read stuff. I actually started drawing it, like doing little sketches and doing bubbles, and like, here, read the script. There's no script. It's actually just like thumbnail sketches with the dialogue. That's a lot easier to get somebody to read.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. I mean, manga-esque. Okay. I mean, I don't necessarily consider that a negative. I've read a lot of manga. Some of it's good. Most of it is good. Actually, I don't think I've read anything as bad as far as manga, but haven't read everything. So, and also I don't think they import the garbage.
I don't know. You could probably get anything.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm I'm selective. So it's very, I'm reading 1% of 1%, of what's out there. So, but yeah, I mean, all right. Yeah, I just find that interesting. So, I mean, I want to see this book now.
I need to finish it. That's what I was saying about finishing up projects and not taking on too much stuff. I'm looking further ahead to not people ask hey, I want to do this 3-page or 3-issue story with you, and it's like I can't, because I need to finish this next project before I can move on to anything else. And this is something that's really personal to me, because like I said, writing is super challenging, and I definitely want to get that done, because to me, it would be an accomplishment to say that I've written a story, and it might not be the best written story in the world, and that's not what I'm trying for. It's always I'm trying to do the next best thing for myself, challenge yourself, hit the next level for me. I'm not worried about writing better than any other writer out there, or drawing better than anybody else. I just try to do the best version of me, and and I'm hoping that people will be able to one day, like, they find something I do in like 10 years from now, and like maybe they'll be like, hey, I want to go back and see what other kind of stuff they've done. And it's really exciting to, like I said, follow the journey of growth and like, see the kind of stuff that they were trying. And the writing project for me is something that like is going to be really exciting when I get there. And I'm hoping that it's as fun. Maybe it will be a whole issue battle fight scene.
I'm telling you, it's an awesome book, man.
I'm looking forward to checking that one out. We're talking about Gladstone.
Yes, Gladstone. Yes, that was like I said, it just really surprised me. I was just like, oh, okay, wow, this was really, this was much better than I thought it would be. I think I read it. I don't know how you read your comics, but I usually read before I go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm probably reading 100 to 200 pages a night. Right. Yeah.
Damn.
I got a huge read pile. Like, it's massive. So
does your read pile, do you use other books to mark where you are in other books? Because that's totally what I do.
No, I have
read comics, marking half read comics.
Look, see, I've backed so many Kickstarters that I have dozens upon dozens of bookmarks. And so I have tons of those things. So but I'm usually reading 3 or 4 books at one time. So I'll read like 30 or 40 pages from one book. I'll read 50 pages from another, and I'll just, cycle through. But I think that book I read over the course of 2 nights. I read like half of it one night and half of it, and I was late. And I just burned right through it. I enjoyed it so much. So, we're normally
that looks like a pretty thick book too.
130, 140 pages, somewhere in that area. But yeah, it's not thin, but it's not, it like I said, it's awesome. It was an awesome thing. Mark Andrew Smith, I got to get him back on when he has less internet problems. That was the only problem with that. But getting back to you, all right, so we're getting close to the end of this, but we're not at the end. So, I mean, I want to ask you this: is there anything that I didn't ask you that maybe you wanted to talk about?
No, but I mean, like, comics can be hard, but you always just want to, challenge yourself and push yourself to the next level. It's just doing your best. And I find it really cool to meet new people and chat with them. And like, the networking is probably like the best part. Like, when you're doing comics, sometimes it feels like such an alone thing. Like, you're locked up in your room, you're sitting there writing for 2 hours or whatever it is that you're doing. And like, you don't always get to have the conversations with the other people. So stuff like this is super awesome. I'm so excited that you had me on here and give me the chance to talk with you. Getting to listen and find other creators that, I'm going to enjoy their work, and looking forward to like hopefully catching some of these people at a comic show one day. Like, it's so much fun. Like, we're all in this together. It's a community, and being a part of it is the best thing.
Yeah, I mean, I started this show because originally what I wanted to do was I wanted to do a documentary on independent comic book creators. But I'm like, if you look at independent comics, any given month, right, you have, I don't know, 125 projects on Kickstarter, right? Any given month. So you have 1,200, 1,400, 1,500 projects. That's potentially 1,500 different sets of creators. How the hell am I going to do a documentary? Like, how can you?
And you have to give up sleeping to read all those books.
Right, exactly. You got to do that, and it's just, and then tracking them down, interviewing them all, and it's just like, I'm like, oh man, how's that going to work out? So I said, you know what? Let me just do an interview podcast show where I'll just do one at a time. Because I see a lot of these podcast shows, they'll do like 6 people on a panel, and that's fine if you have like a subject, but I want to actually, meet the person, talk to the person, try to connect, and just try to get everybody's individual story, because everybody comes to it differently,
You're doing great things, man. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I'm trying.
It
You
will be
know,
the legacy,
it will be the legacy.
along with
Um,
the 3,000 pages that you'll have finished by the time it all
oh
comes
yeah,
to an end.
that's true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Somewhere, it'll probably be buried underneath it. Um, so all right, now before I'm gonna ask you a bunch of goofy questions next, but before we get to that, is there anything you want to like any websites, promotion, anything you want to push? Let the fans know where you're from and where you're at.
So nothing for me, but there's a lot of cool Kickstarters going on right now. I know Kevin Joseph has his Tart Kickstarter. Brent Fowler's running his Last Ember Kickstarter right now. So there's a lot of people doing really cool stuff, and you
Yeah.
should go check out their books.
Cool.
Follow down the Kickstarter web.
All right. So let me ask you. Let me ask you a couple of my goofy questions. I'm sure you heard me ask these before, so you probably thought about them. So okay. So we'll start with the first one. No, we'll change it up a little bit for you.
Oh, perfect.
Right. Because normally I ask, right, what artist would you want to get to draw your book, right? But you're an artist, you're writing, but you're mostly an artist. So I'll ask you, who's the writer that you would most want to work with?
Ooh,
If you were given the opportunity.
that's
Present company
crazy.
excluded.
Oh man, like that would be nuts. I think I would probably have to pick Jim Zub just because, like, he's super cool.
Mhm.
Yeah, that would be my choice if I lived in Dream World.
Hey, listen, man. I mean, it's a small world. You never know. I mean, trust me. Jim Zub, I'm sure, is out there looking for an artist, and you may fit the profile. You know, like, you know what, that guy, that Ryan Kroboth guy, that's him. That's the guy I need.
He's waiting for you.
Exactly. Exactly. So, all right. Um. So, and the next one, I'm sure you've heard. So, if you were given the golden ticket and you were called up to Marvel, DC, or any of these big companies, and all these different characters, and they said, Ryan, what's the book, what's the characters, whatever, that you want to create, if you were to write it, who would you want to write? And if you were to draw it, who do you want to draw?
So I'm don't read a whole lot of Marvel or DC just because they tend to send you out on tangents to like buy like 20 other books, and that's kind of a turnoff for me. But
Mm-hmm.
I totally like IDW and the Ninja Turtles. Like
Mm-hmm.
that would be like my like that would be awesome.
Right.
And like I would totally love to do something for Nintendo, man. That would be sweet.
Nice. Nice. Okay. Well, that's cool. All right. Now I have a few comparative questions. So let's see. Let's see
These
how.
are the hard ones, man. I watch your interviews and I'm like, I don't know any of these guys. So
Okay.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
All
Let's
right.
do this.
Well, I want to ask you any of the really. Well, I mean, I'll ask you some of the basic ones. Because I do have some deep dive ones that, like, you have to really be into. But okay. But here's a simple one. Captain America or Batman?
I would have to go with Batman because his video games are better.
Okay. Okay. Godzilla or Gamera?
I don't even know who Cameron is, so I'd have to
Really?
go Godzilla.
Okay. Okay.
Godzilla shows were awesome back in the day, man. The
Yes.
dude in the suit.
Hmm. Now, I'll tell you now, if you don't know Gamera, you can take a look around for them. There was a set of movies they did in the 90s. It was 3 Gamera movies. Though, if you see them, those are ones you want to watch. They have the old ones where and the guy in the suit and all that jazz. Yeah, those are
Is it kind
fun.
of like Ultraman? Is it like the Japanese Ultraman type thing?
Not the old ones are like that. The
Okay.
um the
I've
ones from
probably
the
seen it and
90s.
I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, no, well, it's a giant turtle. They're flies. So
Maybe I didn't, but this
yeah.
sounds like I should.
Um. All right, Barker or King?
Yeah, this one's hard. I'd probably have to go with King. I haven't read a whole lot of his stuff, but I love his movies.
Okay. Okay. You mean you didn't like Hellraiser?
I did. I have a really short attention span.
Okay, got you. All right. So, um, hmm. Next gen or DS9?
I think the next gen stuff is pretty cool. I'll go with that.
Okay. Hellboy or Spawn?
I like Hellboy,
Okay.
and not just because of Mignola's style. Like I think the character is a lot of fun.
Right. No, that's cool. See, I used to have that question with Hellboy or Usagi or Jimbo.
Yeah.
And I think people felt that was a little too unfair. You know, which was just
I actually don't like the Hellboy comics though. I tried to read them and I didn't like the writing. Love the art. Love the art. The colors on that amazing.
Yeah.
And the story didn't do it for me, so I didn't finish. Like I think I read the first one.
You may, if you wanted just to take a second look at it, not necessarily Hellboy, BPRD.
I think I picked up the one issue where the Abe Sapien, like it was all 3-tiered panels for the whole issue. I saw that on like a news website, and I was like, "It sounds pretty cool. I like the gimmick. I'm in," and that was pretty decent.
Okay, because he tends to work with other writers, so it's not just Mike Mignola. You know, he works, so he's paired up. So I found like though, like as far as like his whole universe things goes, I like Hellboy. The artwork is obviously excellent, but the BPRD, the story is much better. I've always felt.
So then you agree with me, right?
Oh well,
that the writing unofficially.
Yeah. I mean, because I do like it, but you know, don't get me wrong. Frazetta or Boris?
I'll go with Frazetta. That's a hard one. I think you mean Boris Vallejo, right?
Boris Vallejo, yes. Yeah.
So where I got my Sunmaker painting framed, when I went in and got the second one done, they're like, "Hey, Boris Vallejo lives nearby, and he actually comes in here to get his stuff framed." I'm like, "What?"
So that's cool.
Yeah, it's weird. Maybe I've seen him on the street and I don't even know it.
That's true. Well, he's older now, but he's buff. So you know, he's kind of like
that narrows it down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, yeah, he's an older gentleman, but yeah, he's kind of buffy. So, Wally Wood or Al Williamson?
I'm gonna go with Wally Wood.
Okay. All right. Now I'm gonna ask you this question. I'm gonna ask you why. All right. John Byrne or George Perez?
I'm not even sure if I know them.
Really?
Did I just committed blasphemy?
Not necessarily. I mean, it's all right. You'll know John Byrne. He did the classic run on the X-Men with Chris Claremont, where it was the Phoenix Saga.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's classic John Byrne. George Perez did two. Well, he did a bunch of things, but you probably remember him from. He did the Teen Titans back in the day. He had an incredible Wonder Woman run. He did the JLA versus Avengers. He did what else did he do? That you might know. I mean, because he did a lot of other stuff. Like he worked at CrossGen. He's in a bunch of stuff. But yeah. All right, but
so he did everything that I didn't read.
That you didn't read, yeah, exactly. And he did a long run with Kurt Busiek on the Avengers.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So, oh man, I failed that one.
Well, listen.
I'll go with the Phoenix one then, because I read those.
All right, John Byrne. All right, so you know what? So I'll give you more of an indie one. Crumb or Picard?
I don't know Picard, but Crumb stuff is pretty cool. I watched the documentary too, which is interesting.
Yeah, those documentaries, yeah. But Picard has a documentary too. And they're both worth watching.
Is that the guy that had the cancer and did the Indy thing? Is that him? Or am I thinking somebody else?
Did he? Yeah, I think that might be that one. Maybe.
Yeah, it is super obscure.
Yeah. All right, I'll ask you a couple more of these. Labyrinth or Legend?
Ooh, Labyrinth.
Okay. Okay. Vampirella or Red Sonja?
I'll go with Red Sonja. I'm not totally into the whole skimpy thing.
Okay. Cool. So that's it for tonight. You know, I think you made it. You know,
Did I pass?
you passed. You passed. There is no pass or fail. There is no pass or fail. This is just.
Did I beat the JD? This is C level.
Let's see. Yes, you're beyond C. You're well into the A's. Don't worry about it. You're good. You're good.
Awesome.
All right. So Ryan, let everybody know, where can they find you? You know, what's your websites, if they want to contact you, where they can contact you, where they can see all your work, that sort of thing. So let everybody know what's going on.
Yeah, you can find me on my website is ryankroboth.com. That links up to just about everything. You can also find me on Facebook, Ryan Kroboth Art. I'm also on Twitter, DarkHalf5. That's my Xbox gamer tag. So if you want to beat me up on video games, that's where you'd find me there. But hopefully I'm not playing video games because I'm drawing comics.
Yep. Sounds good. All right, so everybody, we're at the end. Please like, subscribe, share out the video. Let everybody know that this is going on, and I'll be talking to you all soon. And have a great night. Take care.
Have a good night, everyone.
All right.